Hello, my name is Jonathan Holt, and today's training session will cover sensitivity analysis. While the topic of sensitivity analysis is very broad, today I'll briefly touch on some of the basic points. The information that will be presented will follow this basic roadmap. First, an introduction to sensitivity analysis, answering the question of what a sensitivity analysis is. Some of the qualitative and quantitative steps in developing a sensitivity analysis and how these work in their own way to develop an analytical picture. Then, how to incorporate risk into capital budgeting and how it figures into forecasting returns. Finally, some limitations on sensitivity analysis. Sensitivity analysis shows how different values of an independent variable affect a dependent variable under a given set of assumptions. Basically speaking, it's like creating a what-if scenario where you change one thing at a time and analyze how it affects the overall outcome of a scenario. Places where this would be used would be to mitigate risk by predicting outcomes from the changing variables and using the analysis to understand if the model could withstand worst-case scenarios. Sensitivity analysis works well in complex scenarios to help to understand relationships between inputs and outputs not yet understood. Using a sensitivity analysis can also be used to forecast the impact that changes in variables can have on the results of a financial model. Some of the questions that need to be answered when building a sensitivity analysis would be the qualifying information or the qualitative steps, which are identifying key variables, determine which input factors are most likely to impact the outcome of the analysis based on expert knowledge and understanding of the situation. Assessing risk, identify potential risks associated with each variable and their likelihood of occurrence, prioritizing critical uncertainties. Scenario analysis. Evaluate different plausible scenarios considering both positive and negative variations in key variables to understand potential impacts on the decision. Quantitative steps that are taken in sensitivity analysis are steps that are taken to actually use the quantity of something, in this case, the number of something inside of the system. Some of the steps that go into quantifying this information would be collecting data and using it to build models to track systemic changes, varying input values to change key variables one at a time while recording corresponding changes. Finally, analyzing the output and identifying what variables make the most impact on the whole system. While there are a great deal of reasons to utilize sensitivity analysis, there are definitely some limitations. Some of these include limited predictive power. It is more about understanding the model's behavior under different conditions than expecting specific outcomes. There is a lot of information that can be gleaned from the analysis. Sometimes this information can be misunderstood or misinterpreted, giving false direction. Along with the misinterpretation, there needs to be absolute accuracy to the information coming in to ensure the model is generating the proper information. Basically, if you put garbage in, you get garbage out. While there will always be some sort of risk involved in generating returns, companies should take an approach that efficiently manage an appropriate level of risk that their portfolio can manage. Overall, the higher the risk, the higher the return should be. The way they manage the inherent risk is by making strategic decisions using analytical tools. While sensitivity analysis is one, there are others that are interconnected as well. Some of the methods are adjusting the discount rate for riskier projects to reflect the time value of money, ensuring that the risk and return are matched, creating multiple scenarios to evaluate potential outcomes under different conditions, looking at variable scenarios, using the Monte Carlo simulation, which is a statistical method to generate a probability distribution of potential project outcomes. By using an algorithm, an approximate probability is projected using statistical probability. So in summary, the key things I went over today were what is sensitivity analysis and what it's used for, some of the steps involved in preparing a useful risk analysis, including qualitative and quantitative steps involved. I went over some of the limitations in risk analysis, And I went over incorporating a project's risk into capital budgeting and tools that are used to help predict, mitigate, or prepare for some of the risk. Hopefully, this answered some of the questions that you had. Thank you.